to me, this is a fascinating story. I mean, we just heard a very short bit about some people who are concerned about the way TikTok may be moving forward. Break it down for us. This new structure, what's really going on, and is this going to be a seismic change?
Well, Sean, thanks so much for having me. And I would say, not a seismic change. Really what this has turned into is kind of a jurisdictional kind of sleight of hand, right? You had an ownership structure that was almost entirely offshore, and then one that is now, as you mentioned, Oracle and other American owners are now the majority owner, but you still have ByteDance as part of that. Basically, the data is held here in the United States, in the state of Texas, but the algorithm itself and the way that content moves across it is still something that is reviewed by ByteDance. And so this is, the data is elsewhere, the ownership is elsewhere, but the fundamental functionality of it and some of its ownership remains the same, Sean.
Yeah, and ByteDance, of course, is the Chinese company that put together this algorithm that everybody wants to get. So talk about the stumbles that the new company is experiencing, and this could just be growing pains, perhaps, but there's more location tracking going on, a lot more data sharing for advertisers, and more concerns about censorship and data privacy, which, if you look, I think a lot of people would have thought that ByteDance might have been behind that a lot more than the U.S., but that's not what we're hearing from so many users right now.
Well, my perspective on this is that, every social media platform is perhaps the most sophisticated surveillance platform we could have ever imagined, right? A national spy agency could not have imagined gathering as much information as these companies gather on all of us now. And so once upon a time, the fact that one of those behemoths was a Chinese company, a ByteDance-owned company, TikTok, was of great concern to American lawmakers, of course, less so to the users, 170 million Americans regularly using this thing. But, the change now and the new terms of service does spell out some of that invasive surveillance even more distinctly than it did before. Very, very precise location information is being collected. The new terms of service say they can follow you off of the app in a way that, of course, I would say TikTok did all of this before. It's just much more explicitly spelled out now. But again, Sean, this is endemic to how, surveillance works as a product now across so many of these platforms. And TikTok is, I would say, has been in the past the most engrossing form of it, and is now just, I'd say, a little more explicit now that it is a U.S. ownership.
We heard the numbers, 170 million users here in the United States. I'm surprised it's not more, to be honest with you. But has TikTok, is it losing its luster among Americans? Are people going to be looking to other sites such as Instagram since the U.S. launch, for lack of a better term?
Well, I think for everybody in the creator game, the lesson of the last few years has been that you are on rented land. You are on land you do not own. And as a result, you need to diversify as much as possible. So the creators that I spend time with, I'm pretty closely connected to a big community of them. There's, everybody is basically posting everywhere they possibly can. So you don't ever put a piece of content up in just one place. You put it as many different places as you can, because you don't know what's going to happen. And so I really feel for people, especially on TikTok, who have made a business out of perhaps, marketing their wares. There are some businesses whose whole marketing strategy focused on TikTok, brand deals where that was the case as well. And those folks, of course, I think become much more leery. I would say people are not leaving as users, but the people who depend on it for business purposes are certainly learning to diversify here, Sean.
Let's dig a bit deeper, because some of the creators are the concept of TikTok houses, or a collective where social media influencers live and make content together. So what about this new ownership and direction of the app that shapes spaces like that? And you talked about it a minute ago. Take a look at the new terms and conditions. When people read through that, they're like, did I always agree to this, or is this something new?
I think it's the lesson for all of us that reading the terms and conditions, as boring as it may seem, is really worth doing, because on any platform that you are on, whether it's an American-owned one or a Chinese-owned one, there is an incredible amount of surveillance coming your way. In the case of something like a TikTok house, I got to say, honestly, Sean, I don't mourn those at all. Young people essentially, moving in with their coworkers and having to be on camera at all hours in the hopes of making a few extra thousand a year is the saddest thing I can think of. So I am not in any way sad to see those things go go away. But you know, as I mentioned, you know, the fact that this is a real tentpole of marketing for a whole bunch of companies, the fact that again they just don't know from moment to moment whether the company that they have built their marketing strategy around is going to continue to survive is really, really a big deal here, Sean.
Okay, Jacob, talk about some of the other alternatives that are out there besides TikTok.
Well, there are, of course, you know, a number of other platforms that users have explored. When the first ban, the sort of momentary ban, went into effect here right before Donald Trump took office, you know, people began experimenting with Chinese, you know, social media in other forms, Lemon8 and other ones, which has been, you know, a really interesting, that was a really interesting experiment. I would say there hasn't been a lot of that since that time. But I mean, you know, the thing that I think TikTok is really known for in the United States, and this is the irony of it being a Chinese, you know, origin company, is it was really a place of political discourse. This is really a platform where people come to hold forth on often their political opinions. And I have found the community there to be extremely open in that way. People that I know who are political creators tend to really like TikTok for that reason. And we know that when you instead are on some of the other platforms, the emphasis is a little more commercial. It's a little more about what you wear, what you look like. And so TikTok really remains, I think, a center of sort of short form political discourse in this country. And that doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon here.
Good stuff. Jacob Ward, thank you so much. Good insight. We thank you a lot.